Greetings, my name is Tim Johnson. This is Recovery, Strength, Hope and Courage. In today's video, I'm calling Powerful or Powerless, and it'll become apparent why as I go on. When I first started making these videos, and it was way back in, I think beginning 1st of January was the first one I made. I was in sort of very early days of recovering from alcohol and drug addiction, dependence. Now, I wanted to make the videos to hopefully to pass on my experiences of 35 to 40 years of being dependent on these substances and them taking away a lot of good things from my life. And I wanted to pass on those experiences to try and hopefully help. Even just one person would be enough. You know, it would fill me with joy that if one person got something from these videos. But also they were made as a journal to help myself and for me to look back on over the months as things got better for me, hopefully, and for me to learn from as well, about the way I was and about things I could improve about myself, etc., etc. Because I've learned a lot on this path, and I'm not going to use the word journey, and I'm not going to use the word recovery either, and I'll explain why in a minute. But I've learned a lot from other people that have blogged, for people like particularly a person called Kevin McCarthy on Alcohol Mastery. And, you know, along the way, I've done a lot of research as well and learned a lot about myself. Life's really good, and I'm not going to gloat about it, but life is really good for me at the moment. So, I mean, and I had a mantra at the beginning of this: great things are coming to me. And although I said it, I don't know whether I really believed it. But as things have progressed, I've made massive changes in my life, and great things have come to me. My daughter's marriage date now, my oldest daughter, is April the 14th next year. The venue is decided, the church is decided, and all this is communicated to me with a joy that would never have been there even a few months ago. From them, you know, and they're happy. The relationship between me and my girls and my wife has improved immeasurably. My health has improved, my mental health, my physical health. Everything about my life is 100% better than it was when I was dependent on alcohol and drugs. When I look back on my life over 35, 40 years of this dependence, I wonder why I couldn't have found this path earlier. I've said before, I don't want to regret. I have regrets, and I can't look back. You can't change that past. But I wonder why I never found it. And I look back at one of my videos in the early days, and I say early days, it was only a few months ago, really. And it was about why am I an addict? I call myself an addict then, an alcoholic, and I don't even want to use that word alcoholic anymore, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Now, in that video, I professed that, and I was certain that, and I believed in my heart when I made it, because everything I put on these, I believe with my heart, and it's all the truth, and it all comes from my heart, you know. I believe totally that dependence on alcohol and drugs was an illness. And I believed that all my life because people had told me that. Everybody had told me that I'd come to, professional people had told me that. They told me that in rehab. They told me that in AA. They told me that doctors, psychiatrists, and they'd all told me that it was an illness. Now, I truly believe that. Now, addicts or people dependent on drugs, it's going to take me a while to get used to saying this, people dependent on drugs and alcohol will use any excuse to use, if you pardon the pun, any excuse to use. And a lot of that is based around fear, and a lot of it is based around not being able to face up to emotions, the way they feel inside. And I know this because I've hid from myself and my emotions for over 30 years. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't very good reasons that drive people to alcohol and drugs, because there are. Depression, it's a very serious illness. It can push people that way, that people want to hide from those emotions. They think that they're they're going to get rid of this feeling by drinking or taking drugs. And for a while, they get that certain euphoria, that initial euphoria. Childhood experiences, terrible experiences, traumas in your life, all these things. And I'm the first to say, because things happened to me that I think pushed me towards it, but I don't really believe now that I had an illness. I think that I was pushed towards it, and I think that the first time that you take one of these substances or drink this substance of alcohol or take an opiate, you get this massive feeling of a warm hug, this feeling of escapism, this feeling of you numbing your emotions, which is what you really want to do if you've had a massive trauma. You don't want to think about things that have happened to you. You don't want to things that are happening to you or about the way you feel. You want to hide from those feelings. So you take this substance, and then you find that, yeah, God, this really works. So you'll take it again and again. And then all of a sudden, that feeling you get won't be as strong or as high or as euphoric. So you take a bit more of the substance to try and recreate that first feeling. And this is what happens. And this is how you get onto that treadmill. Because the more of the substance you take, that substance will get a grip on your body and your mind. It will get a grip on you. You will become dependent on it. And the more you take, the more tolerant your body becomes to it, and the more you have to take. And so it goes on. So at the end of the day, weeks and months and years later, you're not even feeling any euphoria. You're doing it to stay well. You're doing it to stop withdrawal. But you're still doing it to try and hide from everything. You're trying to make excuses. And then the fear comes in, the fear of facing those feelings, the fear of withdrawal, the fear of living life without the substances. So all my life I've been labelled an addict and an alcoholic. What is an alcoholic? How can it be an illness? Diabetes is an illness. Diabetes, you choose to put alcohol and drugs in your body. People that are diabetic don't choose to be diabetic. They can't say, no, I won't put that needle in, that insulin in me. They've got to stay well. You don't have to put alcohol or drugs in your body to stay well. And they put this label on you, and suddenly you think you're a victim. You think you're not as good as anybody else. I'm an addict. I'm an alcoholic. And I get how serious it is and how hard it is. And I get how people's lives are in shit and turmoil. But once these substances get hold of you, you've had it. And you have the choice. You're not ill. People with depression are ill. And people with depression have to take drugs sometimes to control that depression. People that medicate with alcohol and drugs aren't alcoholic. Alcoholic is not an illness. They might be ill with depression and they might use alcohol and drugs to medicate that depression. They might use alcohol and drugs to self-medicate the trauma of their lives and the feelings that they're trying to hide and the emotions that they're trying to hide. But I don't believe that's an illness, and I take that back. I mean, I'm going to give a shout out to a guy called Tommy McGann, and he made a couple of videos. I think his latest one was Unplugged, and he's had alcohol dependence for a long time. Like myself, he's 44, and rather than me repeat what he said some really sensible things that made a lot of sense to me about choice, and about the fact that he feels as though he's cured now from this. And it's a great glib statement, isn't it? Cured, because people will tell you can never be cured from this, you'll never be cured. But if I'd have found this way in my 20s, I don't think I would have had a problem with this at all. I wouldn't have had this dependent, because I would have learned to handle my emotions. I would have learned to live this clean life that I'm living now, and I would have learned to face my fears sooner rather than later. It's taken me all these years to face my fears and to learn that I had a choice. I had a choice not to put this shit into my body. And Tommy said, it's like Tommy said about being a vegan, or but you make a choice, don't you? It's like you make a choice to be a vegan. Well, you make a choice not to drink alcohol. And if you don't put it in your body, you won't be dependent on it. And yes, you are going to, if you've been dependent, I'm not being glib about this and just brushing it off. It's bloody hard work coming off alcohol. If you've been dependent on alcohol and opiates, it is a fuck of a hard job to come off them, because you have to break this dependence, and then you have to learn a whole new way of life. You have to stand up and face your fears. You have to bring down these invisible barriers of fear. You have to learn to become the person that you've dreamed of becoming. The best person that you can be. And this is what you have to do, and you have to be strong. And I liken it to being like a pit bull. When a pit bull bites, it doesn't let go. It shakes and shakes and shakes, and you have to shoot it in the head to make it let go. And that's what you've got to be like coming off these substances, this shit. And once the first 2 or 3 months are over, and I'm not saying the first 2 or 3 months aren't going to be hard, because they are. You've got to learn. You've got to start putting good stuff in your body. You've got to start to learn to make good choices. You've got to make sure you exercise every. You've got to do all the things that are harp on and on about. But most of all, you have to face your fears. And when you have trauma, you have to face it. You have to stand up, and you have to have courage, and you have to face this trauma or your fears or your past. People can't face their past. And I had a shit childhood. I won't bore you with the details, but it involved suicide. It involved addiction. And I don't believe you can inherit addiction. I believe you can learn addiction off your parents or people around you that use things in front of you constantly throughout your childhood. Of course you can learn it. It becomes embedded in your brain. So yeah, people are perhaps more prone to trying these substances. But coming off them, yes, it's hard. But once you break that dependence, once you get through those first 3 months and learn to face your fears and face up to life again as the person that you really want to be, then life will become great again. And I harp on about it. And please, I promise you, and I know a lot of you aren't going to agree with this, but I promise you, I don't believe, and there's many, 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 hundreds of thousands of people that have been dependent on these substances that believe the same thing. Look at Kevin O'Hara in Alcohol Mastery. Watch his videos. He has a massive following now, and the success rate is almost 100% of people stopping with him. It's amazing. Alan Carr's books that Tommy McGann talks about, read them, because it's all about breaking a habit. That's what it is. You're breaking a habit, and it's a fuck of a strong habit. It's a habit that takes your soul, your body, your mind, your spirit. It takes everything. But I promise you, I don't believe this is a sickness. I will never, ever call myself an alcoholic again. And these substances do not have power over me. I have power over them. I am not powerless. I am powerful. And that's a mantra. Of course it's a mantra. But I am powerful, and I feel powerful. I've had 35, 40 years of this shit. And believe you me, I've had a shit time, and I regret every second of it. And Christ, I wish I'd found this sooner. So please face up to your fears. Become the person that you really should be. And I don't know. I think I could just say action cures fear, inaction creates terror. I was trying to remember that quote, that's why I was looking down. Action cures fear, inaction creates terror. The longer you leave it, the more frightened you'll become of stopping, the more frightened you'll become of recovering. So until next time, carpe diem, seize the day, hold on and stay strong. Much love to you all. Bye-bye.